Hey everyone, this is Frank with Laurel Starts. And if you're watching this webinar today, you're going to learn how to work the divorce niche. I wouldn't say we were just having a discussion earlier about should you send direct mail to homeowners who are recently divorced or prospect them. And Laurel has her answer on that. What we're going to talk about today specifically is going after the actual attorney that deals with this, because the attorney can refer you to both sides of the transaction, what they have to buy. And it's a very nuanced strategy. So you could find in your city and in your county all of the family law attorneys that specialize in family law. And there's a systematic way to earn trust with them and to approach them, to position yourself as the local expert. So when a case comes up, they can refer you as the court-appointed attorney for the transaction. Is that correct, Laurel?
Court-appointed realtor, yeah.
Realtor. I'm sorry, not attorney. Court-appointed realtor for the transaction. I'm getting my lingo correctly. So anyways, I'm Frank Klesitz. I'm with Viral Marketing. You're probably wondering why my camera looks terrible. I'm in a hotel right now, as you can see, and there's windows all around me. So I wanted to do the webinar like this so you can see me okay, but not like this because the windows mess up the lighting. But we're going to spend some time with Laurel today, and she's going to answer all your questions about how to get business in the divorce niche. Laurel, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So this is actually interesting. Let's start off this way. Most people, when they get into the divorce niche, will go to county records, pull a list of divorces, and start calling and direct mailing them. I see that as a common place to start. And you're like, yeah, you might want to think twice about that. Why is that?
Yeah. So there are a couple of reasons why we want to think twice about it. Number one is that realtors already have this sort of reputation of being ambulance chasers. And in this niche in particular, it's a very sensitive niche. So we want to be very careful and very sensitive about our own personal brand and our own personal reputation. So researching and going directly after people who are getting a divorce can be seen as one of those ambulance chasing type. So that's one thing. Another reason is because when you have got, in a domestic violence situation, for example, what'll happen is sometimes you'll have a spouse who is needing to, they will file and then they will serve the other spouse. And it may be very sensitive and it can be dangerous. And they're trying to time the service to that other person only when they are safe, they and the children are safe. We as realtors, when we're trolling public records, we have no idea when that other party has been served. We just see the filing. So we don't know when it has been served. So there have been circumstances, situations where a realtor has been trolling public records and they have essentially blown the cover of a divorcing litigant who is maybe in a dangerous situation. So we need to understand and be very sensitive to the fact that this isn't, yes, these are people that sometimes need to sell their house, and it is an avenue to pursue. However, this isn't just like, prospecting to expireds and to FSBOs and stuff. It's very different. The third reason why we also, why it's also not that effective is because when somebody files for divorce, the court takes jurisdiction over all of the assets with a case. So there's something called ATROs, automatic temporary restraining orders. And somebody can't just sell a house. You can't just, without agreement by the other party or an order by the court. So there's no, you can't unilaterally dispose of a marital asset. So, again, going after recent filings, you might get somebody who bites, let's say, and they say, yeah, I want to sell the house. And it's only until that other party or an order by the court agrees or orders the property to be sold that it's ever going to happen. Most of the time, that doesn't even take place until later on in the case. So, and by then you could be conflicted out. You're not neutral anymore. By the time you get the other party on board to sell it, they're not necessarily agreeing to use you. So it can almost be like like a suicide in terms of trying to get listings without even quite realizing it. So I don't advise doing that at all.
That's very insightful, Laurel. Very insightful. It's important to remember the humanity of this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about building a list of, and again, I'm sorry for my light, everyone, if you're just seeing this. I'm in a hotel traveling, and there's windows all around me. And this is the only place I can do it because I was out of my room. Okay, so I apologize. Let's talk about building a list. So you're going to say, okay, I still want to specialize in divorce niche for various reasons while you're watching this. I need to build a list of family law attorneys in my area. How would one go about doing that to even just begin starting work, how to approach?
Yeah, so again, this is another huge question that I get. The lead generation question is always the question, right? So building a list of family law attorneys is very easy. I mean, you just Google it. You Google family law attorneys in your area and scroll through, the first 10 pages of Google, and you'll probably assemble yourself a pretty good list. It's that, however, is only going to get you so far. Now you've got names and numbers, but what's going to really get you in the door and what's really going to get an attorney, it's really about conversion, right? It's really about how do you get them to listen to you. And there is not a silver bullet script to get past the gatekeeper. There's not any sort of a specific letter that is so compelling, your phone is just going to blow up. It's really about understanding their world. Lawyers have realtors hounding them daily. They get mailers from realtors constantly. What I would encourage everyone to do is really ask yourself, what's different about you? And it's not about being a better realtor. It's if you really want to specialize in something, what have you done to learn that specialty? So, for example, you've got a doctor who's gone to general medicine, and they really want to start performing heart surgery. Well, they've got to kind of learn a little bit more than a general practitioner if they want to specialize. Anybody who specializes has taken an extra step to learn that specialty. This isn't about lead gen scripts. So, an exercise that I teach agents all over the country. And an exercise that I have found helpful is when you think about a realtor who wants to specialize or who does specialize in historic homes, okay? Charleston, South Carolina, or, up in New England or wherever they've got a historic home. What do realtors know about historic homes? Those that specialize in them. I mean, they know about the history. They know what's the difference between the 1820s architecture and the 1890s architecture. What about Depression era versus World War II era? Like, they know all this stuff. They know history. They know the difference between the wall sconces and the moldings, and they know about the wiring and plumbing and you name it. These are people who truly understand about architecture and history. That's the only reason they're able to call themselves a historic home specialist. It's the same thing in divorce. What is it that you know about divorce? What is it you know that you can consider yourself? How are you not a dime a dozen? Lawyers don't need another dime a dozen realtor. How are you not a dime a dozen? What do you know about divorce that is over and above what any other realtor knows?
So this is a good part for this, Laurel. Obviously, you have a program for this. I'm gonna hide my light. Okay. Tell me where someone goes to learn this knowledge, and then after they learn the knowledge, they can craft their approach to that list of family law attorneys.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what I did when I first got into this niche. What I did to learn what I now know, I did things like I went into family court and I sat and observed. So family courts are open to the public. once in a while, they'll close the doors when there's like maybe a child testifying. But for the most part, they're open to the public. You can literally go into court and you can listen. The bailiff may come up and ask who you are and what you're doing, and you just tell them, I'm here to observe. And you can hear and learn what I would be observing is the demeanor of the attorneys, the demeanor of the parties. I would learn the language. There's all kinds of acronyms that they have. I would want to see when other experts testify. They have experts in psychology and forensics and all kinds of stuff. I'd want to see, what does it look like when those people testify? You're learning the culture by doing that. I went over and over and over again. I would go a few times a week for months. I did that. So that's one thing you can start to do. Put yourself in the shoes of somebody who is getting divorced, maybe a self-help person. They've got a litigant who's representing themselves. So go to the self-help center at the courthouse and understand the process of a divorce. Understand like the filings, the different types of hearings, evidentiary hearings, and what's the difference between settlement conferences, all of it, like the whole process, cradle to grave, and understand where the house fits into that. Where does the real estate piece fit into the whole entire divorce process? Research also your state laws regarding real estate matters. So in California, there's the marriage of Duke, there's the marriage of Watts, Epstein, Moore, Marsden, Sanchez. All of these cases are what shape our laws, our state laws. And if I'm going to hold myself out to be an expert or a specialist, and I'm going to step into that litigation world, I better know what those are. So I would attend, there's something called Second Saturday. If you have one in your area, I would attend a Second Saturday. That's where they teach litigants about the whole process. You can get also training in divorce mediation, get training in collaborative divorce. I mean, there's just a lot of ways that you can become very, very versed before you ever hold yourself out, or before you ever, I just think it's throwing money away to start marketing to attorneys without having substance behind your marketing efforts. It's not about being a great realtor. It's that there are great realtors everywhere. It's not about that. It's about what do you know about their world, and that's the reason why you don't see a lot of realtors who truly specialize in this, because a lot of realtors haven't taken that extra step to do it.
Laurel, this is incredibly insightful. Where does someone go to find out when these hearings are that are in divorce in their courthouse? I would assume this is district court, so I know that much.
Yeah,
or not.
Right. So you'll first want to find out what courthouses in your area have family court. So not all courthouses have a family law, have family court. So you'll want to find out where that is. And then you just show up, and depending on your area, they might have lots of courtrooms. The main courthouse that I serve has 9 departments. So you can walk into one. If there's not a lot going on, go walk into another and get there at 8:30. Get there in the morning very early in the morning. That's where the most action is. And just and hang out there and just listen. You're not there to market. You're not at a point where you're marketing yet. Okay, this is semester 1 of medical school. You're not ready to start taking patients and to start holding yourself out like you can start doing surgery here. I mean, you're there to learn. You're stepping into an environment where people have spent 7 years, hundreds of thousands of dollars before they ever considered taking a case, taking a client. So be a student first. That's how you develop your own unique selling proposition. Now, what I also did, because it took me many years to learn what I know. And what I did I learned about probably year 3, year 4. I set out a goal for myself to teach realtors at someday. I was going to teach realtors how to do this, give realtors sort of a shortcut path. It took me a long, long time and a lot of money to learn what I know. How can we bundle all of that up and go out and teach realtors exactly what realtors need to know, the very specific real estate piece of it? So that's when I launched and I developed the Divorce Real Estate Institute, which is the only curriculum of its kind in the country that teaches realtors truly how to do this from somebody who walked the walk for 14 years.
Yeah.
There are 2 ways. You can do it yourself, like a DIY, or you can go to school for it. One of the 2, you know, and either one is admirable, but I wouldn't hold yourself out to be any sort of a specialist or an expert unless you've got special knowledge in it.
So after you gained this special knowledge, which you have the curriculum for that and gave us wonderful ideas, let's talk about crafting your marketing strategy to earn face time with an attorney. So I'd assume you'd start with a list. What was it, maybe 100 family law offices? The number of offices or the number of attorneys you would to build to get going to start your approach process after you've spent time learning some of the basics of this.
Yeah, so then that's where that is where our good old fashioned, almost like a Brian Buffini approach, which is you stay in touch with people. I throw events for attorneys. I educate lawyers. Come from a place of contribution, not a place from asking for it's not about what they can do for you. It's about what you can do for them. So contacting a lawyer with some script and saying, hi, I'm a realtor. I'm #1 in the area. And do you have any cases today that need with a house that need to be sold? Like, it's not that. It's how can I help you handle or navigate through the real estate aspect of your case? How can I be a resource to you? Another thing I would recommend that you do is you find 10 attorneys and you set up meetings and you ask them, what are the top 3 real property issues in your cases? What do you wish law school taught you about real estate? Ask them these things and just start building relationships. There is no silver bullet to this. There's no shortcutting this. This is not sprint real estate. If you want instant leads, go buy Zillow leads. If that's what you want, go do that. But if you want a business that you've built a reputation and you've held yourself out to be something that 99% of other realtors cannot do, then it's going to take the time and the work you have to put into it.
I got a question for you, Laurel. Could I hire a paralegal to say, in this county, I want you to run a search every week of all of the complaints that came in that have to do with divorces, and go through it and see if there's a home involved and find out the attorney that's representing the plaintiff?
I don't even think it is going to require that much. I think every attorney who's practicing family law
deals with it. Yeah. But at least when you reach out, let's talk about the approach process. Could you actually, when you were to drop off, could you drop off like, I'm actually reading the complaints, I'm actually reading the filings? Do you think that would help at all? Or is that just a bit much?
The lawyers have a duty of confidentiality, right? Even though there might be some public information, I think that lawyers would find that creepy.
Okay, that's a question I wanted to know. Okay, so let's give some examples of, now that you know what you're talking about, you're comfortable approaching, you have your list. What do you recommend for a touch plan to start building a relationship so you're in a face-to-face meeting over time with that target list of family law attorneys?
So they want to know specific things. This isn't where we do generic lead gen, right? Like we don't send cheesecake recipes and that sort of thing. A lot of them want to know about the market. A lot of them want to know about buyout. So when you think about a case, like lawyers need to know the value of a house, and they need to know what they're going to do with the house. Like, what are the options that these people have with the house, right? They need to know they can trust you. So what we can't do as realtors is, if a lawyer gives us a case or calls us up and says, you know what, I've got a case where my client really wants to keep the house, but the husband really wants to sell it, and can you maybe talk to them and see what their options are? That is not the time to just hard sell somebody into selling the house. You have to be like a true consultant, not tied to that outcome. If you want the lawyer to keep sending you business, you have to be trustworthy to them. So if it is better for a family to stay in their home and they can do it, by all means, to give that recommendation. I'm all about people staying in their homes if they can, and not disrupting the lives of the children. I mean, in a divorce and these people have to move, the children can no longer ride bikes on the street with all of their friends. They might have to go to a different school. They might have to share a bedroom now. Like, their whole world is already turning upside down. And if they can stay in their home, at least through school or something, then by all means, that's what we should be advocating, even if it means I don't get a sale. Because guess what? The universe is bigger than that. And the last thing that we ever want, if we want to have a referral business, the last thing that we should ever be doing is trying to put our own needs and sales goals above the needs of a family. We'll never get another case from that lawyer again. Forget it.
How do you size the market of how many cases there are with homeowners in divorce, let's say, over a year or every month, just to kind of see how big the market is for this in an area? So you're in LA, well,
Yeah.
outside LA,
Mm-hmm.
fairly large.
Yeah.
Right? Well, let's say I'm going to do this and we're based out of viral marketing, which is Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay.
How would I get an idea of how many divorces there are in the county?
So you can probably get some of those records from the courthouse. They can probably give you, different states keep records differently. So the first thing I do is Google it. And I have found, because when we have students that come and get certified at the Divorce Real Estate Institute, one of the things that we do as a faculty is a lot of research on their own local jurisdictions and markets. And so I do this. I mean, I research this and so does our faculty for our students. And most of the time you can find it on the internet. It's just maybe in different, sort of different ways, because every state and every jurisdiction is different. So that's where I would start. But here's what I will also tell you. If you look at the NAR home profile of home buyers and sellers, so I always look at that. It comes out every year, and it's for the year prior. When I look at that, in 2018, 8% of home sellers sold their home as a result of a family status change. Okay. The data, let me just preface it by saying the data is very limited. There have not been a lot of studies done on divorce and real estate and the numbers, okay? But if you look at the NAR profile of home buyers and sellers, it says that 8% of home sales are as a result of a family status change. A family status change is 3 things: birth, death, divorce. So if you take that number and you just divide it by 3, we don't know in family status change how many are actually divorced, but let's just divide it up by 3. Then you take how many homes have sold in your market, and you take 8% of that and divide it by 3, and that's typically how many it is. I mean, I teach all over the country. I was just in Phoenix, and I want to say there were a total of, I think, like 1,200 units, something like that, that sold using that math as a result of divorce. It's very, very difficult to determine that number. It's sort of impossible right now. They just don't have studies on how many homes sold as a result of a divorce. But we can do the best we can with the numbers that we have. And what I can tell you is that every single market I'm in, the ratio of realtors who are specializing in it to the number of units,
very small.
There's barely anybody. I have not found a market with more than 2 people that I can find online that specialize in it.
The riches are in the niches, Laurel.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like the ultimate goal here is the attorney would call you up and say, "Hey, Laurel, I got this case. They're trying to figure out what to do with the home. I want you to go talk to the husband or the wife and just guide them and figure out what it's worth and talk to them and figure out what we're going to do with this asset, because I got other things I got to deal with," right? Going out there, right? So let's talk about, you actually had that conversation. What now? Like, what does the court need you to do, and how do you end up with the listing contract as the court-appointed agent? Tell me about that process.
Okay, so the way that I tend to get cases. So let me differentiate what you just said between that and and then how cases actually come to me. So as a resource, as a trusted resource, that is more of I want to say almost a marketing thing. That's how I develop relations. That's a relationship builder. Is if you have a case and they don't know what to do with the house, and maybe one wants to keep it, one wants to sell it, whatever, send them over to me and I'll be happy to go through some things. That is a relationship builder. I'm not tied to that outcome, and you have to disconnect yourself from being tied to that outcome. Okay. Sometimes it is better for them to sell. And I'll tell them that. But the way I get cases is I will get a call from an attorney, I'll get an email from an attorney, I'll get a letter from an attorney, or I'll get a call from a client, usually one of those 4 things. And it is an actual order. And it says, here is a copy of the order. You have been appointed by the court to list and sell the property in the above referenced matter located at such and such. So at that point, I will reach out to the parties and figure out, I need to know who's living in the house, and then and then I do an intake. My assistant actually does the intake. And the intake is, you ask all kinds of questions. You need to know if there's a restraining order. So, and remember, once you step foot into in the litigated environment, you're stepping into high conflict. So I've got clients right now who are incarcerated, who have domestic violence restraining orders against them. Probably about half to 60% of my cases have restraining orders. I've got a client who is currently locked away in a mental facility, and he can only come see me when his chaperone checks him out, comes to my office, and then she takes him back. We've got, this is when you get into litigated environment, understand that you're stepping into a battle zone and you're dealing with high conflict. So having these tools, this is why I say, learn about what skills have you got in order to deal with these cases that come along. if you're just marketing to the regular general public and these are uncontested divorces and that sort of thing, it's not a huge skill set. But when you get into litigation, they're in litigation for a reason. And so, for example, how are you going to handle a lockbox when there's a restraining order and the significant other of the restrained person's a realtor? You've got to have a plan in place for that. How is your communication going to be? What do you do when you've got a party that's living in the house that does not know, that is completely sabotaging the sale of the house? You should never put the seller's information as the contact information for showings, because the party who's living in the house may not want to sell, and they may not approve showings. Or if they do approve showings, they might try to sabotage. I've got one of my students right now has a lady living in a house, doesn't want to sell. And so she sends screenshots of listings on Zillow in her neighborhood to the realtors who are trying to schedule showings to see her house. And she says, here, why don't you show these houses to your clients? These are better deals than mine.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Like, you're dealing with a lot of these types of things. So how do you hedge against that? So, there are a lot of getting into this. It is a definite different world. My business looks like a whole different world than a regular real estate business does. Uh-oh, you're freezing, Frank. I cannot. Hello? My connection? Oh, there we go. Okay, say it again. You froze.
Sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
Have you ever dealt with a personal safety issue when you try to sell a home when someone doesn't want it sold?
Like my personal safety? Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
handle that.
Yeah, I have got a lot. There was a case that an attorney called me about a year and a half ago, and she said, I've got a case and this man is very dangerous and he doesn't want to sell, and the house is out in the middle of nowhere. Do you want the listing? And so I did. I mean, I took the listing, and I had my husband, he's 6'5", 300 pounds. Nobody messes with my husband. I had him come, and he's got a concealed carry, and everything was fine. The guy was okay. We were, it was all okay. But I do have certain safety measures, like, and I think, especially in light of the Beverly Carter situation, and a lot of realtor safety is really on the forefront of a lot of us. But working with buyers a lot of times, but working with sellers, like, I will not walk down a hallway first. I will not go upstairs first. I will not let a party get between me and the exit. So I've always got to have my, I always have to be the closest one to the door. So I just, I have them go and do those things. I do not do listing appointments at the house. I do a walkthrough of the house, and I don't sit. And this is just my whole listing process. We do an intake, then we schedule a walkthrough. I'm there 10 or 15 minutes only to see the house itself. And then I do the listing appointment at my office. Even from a safety standpoint, I don't want to be in somebody else's house. I mean, it can be dangerous. And I've been in situations where there has been domestic violence that's gone on. And so I don't want to be there. But also because my office is Switzerland, it's neutral. It's a neutral third place. That's where my office, and I established that neutral presence by having certain things in place like that, like doing it at my office.
So let's say you list the property, offers come in. Can you give us some nuances with the negotiations and then maybe its settlement of how that's handled when it's done through the court?
So I will, so when an offer comes in, then what we tend to do is we will vet all of the offers, we vet them first. Because we want to make sure that we know we've got decent offers. We want to know that they're truly pre-qualified, all these types of things. I don't want to waste time with, trying to get my clients to agree on something. And then it's a dud offer. So we spend some time doing that. Once we have determined that we have a good or multiple good offers, then we will typically, we will reach out to them separately. And oftentimes when there is a spouse that is more motivated, there's usually one that's more motivated to sell than the other one. So typically we will reach out first to the one who is probably going to be more motivated. And the reason why we do that is because once in a great while, you spend all this time going and getting the sort of the non-compliant spouse to agree, and then you go to the one that you thought was going to be easy, and they're not easy. So we tend to reach out to that one for. It's not always the case. Sometimes it's just a matter of schedules, but we definitely present them separately. The goal with an offer and with anything, getting them to agree on list price, list terms, open houses, showing schedule, the offers, the negotiations, the repairs, all of that stuff. I mean, there are well over 36 points that we as realtors need to get them to be on the same page with. And the key is that you don't get them to agree with each other. So you don't want to call up a client and say, well, he said that he's okay going with this offer. Will you agree with that? That's not the way. When you're in a contested environment, that is not the approach. There's a lot that goes on behind that. So there may be somebody who is, they cannot agree that today is Friday. These people cannot agree that today is Friday. So if he says one thing, she's automatically just going to oppose that a lot of times when you get into these conflicted environments. So the key is to get them to agree with what you recommend. You've hopefully established enough authority, trust, and credibility that they want to go with what you agree with. Now, if you get to a situation where one just absolutely is not agreeing to do something, whether it's the list price, lowering the price, going with an offer, whatever, and you get to an impasse, that's where your role with the court is going to come into play. Are you appointed as the court's expert, or are you simply a listing agent? If you're simply a listing agent, then you need the parties to go to their own attorneys and deal with it. If you're appointed by the court, it's your job and duty to carry out the sale. So then I would initiate a conference call with the attorneys and say, here's where we are. And then if the attorneys can't get them to agree, then we go into court. And ultimately, the court can sign all the paperwork on behalf of the non-cooperative spouse.
Laura, you're a wealth of information. This is great stuff. If you let everyone know where they go to sign up for your course.
If you go to getdivorcecertified.com, in fact, we can type that. Let me type that in here. Okay.
I also have some really good questions I want to ask you that were submitted.
Oh, okay, cool. We have two types of tracks at the Divorce Real Estate Institute. I've got one track that is for people who want to become proficient, but maybe they don't have the experience. So is it okay if I talk for a second about certifications?
Go ahead, tell us.
So there are all different types of certifications in our industry, and there are different ones. I can speak to ours. Our certification is only available twice a year, and it is only available to realtors who have demonstrated expertise and experience in their own area. So there are 45 units. They've got to have completed 45 units. They have to have been licensed for 3 years. There's an application process. So it is an interview, it is an essay, it is a proof of production, and then they have a second interview with one of our attorney faculty. And once admitted, then we have a week-long live, it's a 6-month program, and it starts out with a week-long live training in Southern California. Our next one coming up is October 6th. And it's a week long, it's a whole divorce immersion. It's everything that I wish that I knew, that I needed to know, that I learned that took me about 4 years, that I teach in 6 months. So we have an attorney faculty, we take a field trip to divorce court, we have a judge who comes in and speaks, we go to lunch with the judges, it's a very comprehensive program. So those are the people that earn a certification. I am not gonna put my name behind someone who I don't know what their values are. I don't know what their experience level is. So the only certification that we provide is for people who have demonstrated that. We have another program that does not provide a certification. I don't believe in like buying alphabet soup behind your name. I just don't believe in it. I think it's silly. So we have another program where realtors can become very, very proficient. And if they want to learn how to, their skill set on taking divorce listings, they can take another program, and there is not a qualification for that. We welcome anybody to come. Our goal is to educate the real estate community on these listings. So there's that. And then we have a lot of people in there that are waiting to get the experience before they can jump over and get certified.
Good stuff, Laurel. You have a lot to share. I'm trying to think of some other good questions that came up. I have a list here. I think what's interesting, there's a question about what scripts to use for attorneys. This is not a scripts game that by any means that you want to have a script to use. I think you covered that pretty well. Ramp up time. How long would you say it would take for somebody that's a successful agent that sold many homes, say 50 homes a year, definitely one of the top in the area, but says, I really want to kind of recession-proof my business. I think this is a very recession-proof niche. Would you agree?
I would.
Yeah. I want to recession-proof it. I want to niche myself. I don't want to be a commodity. I need to go to school, and I need to learn this stuff. Mm-hmm. How long do you need before you would say they're ready to go talk to family law attorneys? Doing many of the things that you talked about here?
Yep. So our students that graduate the program, the ones that work our program and have our support behind them, they are getting listings within the first 3 to 6 months. We have some, Troy and Denise Schroeder in Oklahoma City. I mean, they graduated, they've been at this a year and a half, and they started about a year ago. And last I heard, they were something like close to 25, 30 listings, I believe. And it's all about what you put into it. So anybody who has come to our program, who's worked our program, has gotten an ROI from it. And it is, we've got people who now their family law community is utilizing them as a resource, whether it's listings or whether it's, like I said, certain scenarios or whatever. But I would say to be really fair, give it a year. Give it a good year.
Yeah.
And how long does it take to incubate online leads? I mean, what is it? 9 months?
A while. Yeah, about a year.
Okay. So this niche isn't that much different. So I would say give it a year of true learning and pounding the pavement and doing what you need to do and following the program. My program, it is a complete open book. It's exactly what I did to build my business. It's step by step, exactly what I did and continue to do to build my business.
I got a good question. Um, the CMA, are there any liabilities for when you put together a CMA for court evidence, or I would assume um, is there any liability risk when you're doing this at all to yourself as an agent that would be outside of doing traditional real estate?
You know, that's a good question that I think everybody should speak to their broker about. Maybe they're a real estate attorney about. I did that a long time ago, and I have got a retainer agreement for whenever I'm retained to do fair market values, and it's pretty good. You know, when you're testifying, you're giving your opinion on something, and we as realtors, we do pricing every day. So you know, I don't see it as a liability. My broker does not see it as a liability. My attorney does not see it as a liability, and I've been doing it for many, many years. But again, I don't want to give that same advice to somebody and rely upon it. I would speak to your broker and speak to your own attorney.
Have you ever gotten paid to be a witness in the case or like an expert?
Oh yeah, that's another huge part of my business.
Yeah, let's talk about that money besides the commission.
So when I have a listing and I'm a listing agent, and if I have to go into court and testify for that listing, I don't have any extra fees that I charge for that. That's all just rolled into my commission. I'll go into court as many times as I need to and testify and whatnot. If I am hired as an expert on a whole separate thing, so I was hired, I'm hired a lot of times to do values and to do historic values. So in the state of California and in many states, you know, they need to know the value of property at the time of marriage, at the time of separation, at the current date, for all these different reasons, right, in different cases. They sometimes need to know the fair market rental value, not because they're going to rent the house, but because a party living in the house still needs to provide, they need to maybe reimburse the marital community. But anyway, I will get hired to do that a lot. And so I charge for that. I charge for the report. I charge for my testimony time. I charge for my commute time to and from court. Sometimes I'm hired to give an opinion on, there were some title issues. I was on a case a couple months ago where I testified all day long, and it was, they had like 8 different properties, and husband had been deeding on and off all of this stuff, and they hired me to do a lot of research for them and then to testify to that research.
Wow. Laurel, you have some very niche expertise. I think anyone listening to this webinar will go, wow, you know what you're talking about. Again, I apologize for the light. I am stuck in here at a hotel where there's windows all around me. I look a lot better this way, don't I, Laurel? All right. I know.
It looks like you're walking out of heaven, and like the pearly gate, this whole aura.
Anyways, go check out her stuff. And we help her with her marketing. My name's Frank Klesitz. I'm with Viral Marketing, VYRAL. And one of the things, I'd love to get into this, but it would be helpful if you started publishing information about divorces and answering commonly asked questions. I'm sure you have a newsletter. You publish materials, right, Laura? Or Laurel? Laura. I can call you Laura. Laurel.
Laurel. So we've been a long time client of Virals. And what I can tell you is that Viral and just the way, you know, keeping in consistent touch with your database is the key. And it's the same in whether you're a neighborhood expert or what. And what is unique about Viral and what's been really helped not only my success as a realtor with my attorneys, but also the success of the Divorce Real Estate Institute, is that when you are doing video and you're consistently sending out video, they're able to see you and kind of get to know you a little bit, lawyers really want to know who they're hiring. So they find it extremely, extremely valuable. And so it's just been, you guys have been just a game changer in both businesses. And you guys just take the whole headache out of it, and you do all the editing, you do everything, and you make it very, very simple for us. So I just, I do want to say that for anybody who is wanting to get into this niche or whatever, it's just a huge asset that signing up with Viral is really very helpful to to getting the message out. We're all about education, educating our clients, educating our attorneys, and this is a great forum in order to do that. So for sure.
Laurel, I appreciate it. Thank you. And when you're shooting your video, don't have a window behind you. So I want to say thank you everyone for watching. Where can they go to get more information on your materials again, Laurel?
GetDivorceCertified.com.
Wonderful. Thanks everyone for attending. Do you have anything else you want to say, Laurel?
I just thank you. Thank you very much. I always appreciate the opportunity to get the message out.
It was good stuff. Everyone, have a great day.